Hello, ladies. Let me tell you something that often remains hidden behind a man's quiet strength. You may see his smile, you may see his confidence, you may see the way he carries himself as if nothing can break him. But what you don't always see is the silence he keeps, the pain he hides, the hurt he feels when the woman he waits for never returns. Men are taught to be unshaken, to never show weakness, but inside, even the strongest man carries a heart that bleeds in silence. And tonight, I want to take you into that silence, to show you the truth behind his strength, the truth behind his waiting, the truth behind the hurt he feels. When someone walks away, the silence they leave behind speaks louder than any argument. The hurt he feels when you don't return is not just about the absence of a person. It is the emptiness of a world that suddenly feels incomplete. He waits not with anger, but with quiet hope, hoping that every sound, every message, every knock might be the moment you come back. But each day without you is a wait. The mornings that once felt alive now feel dull, and the nights stretch endlessly, filled with questions that have no answers. He replays memories to feel close again, but those memories cut him because they remind him of what is missing. The pain is not always visible. He laughs in front of others, he carries himself with strength, but inside he is fighting storms. Every unanswered call, every ignored message feels like a wound that never heals. He wonders if he did something wrong, he blames himself, then forgives you, only to start the cycle again. Time keeps moving forward, yet his heart is trapped in the moment you left. The world tells him to move on, but how do you move on when the part of you that mattered most is still missing? The greatest pain isn't the goodbye, it's the silence, the not knowing, the unanswered question, why didn't you return? And in that silence lies the deepest truth. He is hurt, but even in his pain, he still carries hope. He still wishes quietly, patiently, that someday you will find your way back. Silence is not just the lack of sound. It is the echo of everything unspoken, everything left behind, everything unanswered. When someone leaves and does not return, their absence speaks louder than any cruel word could. It's not the arguments that break him, it's the quiet, because words, even painful ones, at least give clarity. But silence leaves him questioning every moment, every gesture, every memory, wondering what went wrong. It is in the silence that he feels the weight of abandonment. A silence that follows him into the night, into his dreams, into the morning light when he wakes and realizes once again that nothing has changed. That silence whispers louder than screams because it doesn't end, it lingers in his mind, in his chest, in the spaces where laughter used to live. It's a silence that turns rooms colder, streets lonelier, and time heavier. And that silence is cruel because it makes him imagine things that may not even be true. Did you forget him? Did he mean nothing? Or is there still hope? This unending silence is not empty. It is full of tormenting questions, full of memories that replay without pause, full of pain that grows heavier with every second you do not return. And it cuts deeper, not just today, but every day it continues, for silence is not a wound that bleeds once. It is a wound that never closes, a wound that, waiting is not just patience, it is carrying the weight of time in silence. Every sunrise that comes without you feels like a burden he must lift alone. In the beginning, waiting feels like hope, like maybe tomorrow will be the day you return. Maybe tomorrow the silence will break. But as the days stretch into weeks, and weeks into months, that hope begins to feel heavier, harder to hold, like a stone pressed against his chest. Each day without you does not simply pass, it adds to the weight he carries. The calendar does not just mark time, it measures his pain. The mornings remind him of promises left unfinished, and the nights remind him of the absence beside him. He counts the hours not in numbers, but in memories, each one a reminder of what is missing. And with every passing day, the waiting grows longer, the silence grows louder, and the heart grows heavier, like a chain pulling him deeper into the sorrow of what was and what might never be. And yet he cannot stop waiting. Because waiting is all he has left. Waiting is the only thread that still connects him to you. The waiting heart does not let go. It refuses to surrender, even as the weight grows unbearable, even as the silence becomes suffocating, even as time itself feels endless. When the present feels empty, the mind runs back to the past, clinging to every smile, every laugh, every moment that once felt whole. He replays the memories not because he wants to torture himself, but because they are the only pieces of you that remain. In those memories, he finds you again. The sound of your voice, the warmth of your presence, the comfort of your closeness. They become his refuge, his escape from the silence that surrounds him now. But those same memories that comfort him also tear him apart. Because when he replays them, he realizes they are no longer real, they are echoes. He sits with them like a man sitting with ghosts, familiar, beloved, but unreachable. And so he plays them over and over again, as if somehow repetition could bring them back to life, as if by holding on tightly enough, the emptiness inside him could be filled again. The emptiness is vast, and the memories are small compared to what he lost. Yet he keeps turning them over in his mind like pages of a book he knows by heart but refuses to close. Every detail becomes sharper, every smile becomes sacred, every word becomes heavier. And as he replays them, he feels both closer to you and farther away, trapped between the sweetness of what was and the ache of what no longer is. Hope is the only fire that refuses to go out inside him. It is fragile, yet powerful, the very reason he wakes up each morning, believing that maybe today will be different. Maybe today you will come back. Maybe today the silence will finally break. That hope is what carries him through sleepless nights, what pushes him to keep breathing when the weight of absence suffocates him. Hope becomes his anchor in the storm, the small light in a tunnel that otherwise feels endless. But with every new sunrise comes the same bitter truth, that you are still not here, and the disappointment cuts him deeper than anything else. It is not just sadness, it is the collapse of belief, the shattering of the fragile strength he built within himself. Disappointment is cruel because it does not come once. It comes every single day, each time he realizes the return he longs for has not happened. The cycle repeats endlessly. Hope rises, only to be crushed, rebuilt, and crushed again. He tells himself not to expect, but the heart does not listen. The heart always hopes, even against reason, even against reality. And so the struggle continues. Hope breathing life into him, disappointment draining that life away, hope reviving him again, disappointment breaking him again. It is a battle without end, a war between what he longs for and what he faces, and every time hope flickers inside him, disappointment waits like a shadow ready to extinguish it, leaving him torn, weakened, yet still unable to stop hoping, still unable to stop waiting, still unable to stop believing in something that, when darkness falls, the silence of night presses harder against his chest. Nights used to carry comfort, the sound of steady breathing beside him, the warmth of presence that made the world feel safe. Now the nights are long, stretched, and empty. The bed feels wider, the air feels heavier, and every sound echoes louder because there is no one to soften it. The night becomes a mirror of his loneliness, reflecting his thoughts back at him, multiplying them until he can no longer tell the difference between memory and longing. The cold is not only in the air, it is inside him, creeping into his bones, settling in his heart. And when morning comes, it does not bring relief. Once, mornings were beginnings filled with light and purpose. They held the joy of shared routines, the spark of laughter, the comfort of knowing he wasn't alone in the day ahead. Now the mornings arrive like strangers. The sun still rises, but it feels pale, distant, as if the world shines for everyone else but him. Coffee tastes bitter, silence replaces conversation, and the warmth that once filled his mornings has vanished. The nights wound him, the mornings remind him, and together they create a cycle that never ends. Nights whisper his loneliness, mornings shout his emptiness, and the days in between stretch endlessly, carrying the same truth. That something is missing, that someone is missing, and no matter how much time passes, the cold remains, the emptiness remains, the longing remains, and the weight of each night and every morning grows heavier and heavier and heavier, as if time itself refuses to heal what was broken, as if every passing hour only deepens the void that. This is the question that echoes in his mind more than any other. It is not shouted, it is not demanded. It is whispered silently in the depth of his heart, over and over again, every single day. Why didn't you come back? That question has no answer, and maybe that is what makes it unbearable. Because with no answer, the imagination takes over. It fills the silence with possibilities. Did he do something wrong? Was he not enough? Did you find peace somewhere else, or was leaving always meant to be permanent? This unspoken question haunts him in moments of stillness. It follows him when he is alone at night staring at the ceiling. It follows him in the morning when he reaches for someone who is no longer there. It follows him in conversations where he pretends to be fine, but feels the weight pressing against his chest. He never says it out loud, but inside it never leaves. Why didn't you come back? And the worst part of the question is not that it hurts. It's that it lingers. It stays open, unresolved, heavy. It doesn't fade with time. It grows sharper, deeper, more consuming. Because the longer the silence continues, the louder that question becomes. And he knows no one else can answer it but you, yet you remain absent, leaving him trapped in a cycle of endless wondering, endless searching, endless waiting. And so he carries it silently, hoping for an answer that never comes, holding on to a question that only deepens with time, a question that stretches into the very fabric of his days, refusing to fade, refusing to end, refusing to let him rest, as if every heartbeat is a reminder, every breath is a whisper, every second is an echo of the same unspoken cry. Why didn't you? On the outside he looks strong, composed, steady, unshaken. He wears a mask of resilience so well that most people never see beyond it. He smiles when he is expected to smile. He laughs when the moment demands it. He carries himself as if the weight on his shoulders is nothing more than air. But behind that strength lies a truth he keeps hidden. Loneliness, deep and unrelenting, eating away at him in silence. Strength becomes his shield, the armor he wears to face the world. Yet that armor is cracked, even if no one notices. Every laugh hides a sigh, every smile hides a question, every silence hides the pain he cannot put into words. He convinces others that he is fine, but when the day ends and the mask falls away, he is left with the echoes of his emptiness. It is not that he does not feel, it is that he refuses to show how deeply he feels. And loneliness has a way of slipping through the cracks, no matter how tightly he tries to hold himself together. In quiet moments, when no one is watching, the truth surfaces. The silence becomes unbearable, the memories too heavy, the waiting too long. His strength bends under the weight of it, but still he refuses to break, because breaking would mean admitting how much he aches, how much he longs, how much he still waits. And so he hides the cracks, he hides the loneliness, he hides the storm within him, carrying it all as though it were nothing, when in truth it is everything, pressing against him, consuming him, reminding him again and again that strength is not the absence of pain. It is only the mask he wears to survive, a mask that grows heavier with every passing day, every passing night, every passing moment that you do not return. Every second that deepens the cracks he hides but cannot erase, cracks that. To the world he looks fine. His friends see him laugh, they hear his jokes, they watch him go about his days as if nothing has changed. They believe his smile, they accept his calmness, and they assume the silence he carries is peace. But what they don't see is the storm raging beneath the surface. They don't feel the heaviness in his chest when the laughter fades. They don't hear the restless thoughts that echo in his mind when he is finally alone. His smile has become his disguise, a way to shield others from the truth of his loneliness, because he knows that if he lets the mask slip, the world may not understand. Friends can sit beside him, but they cannot feel the hollow ache that keeps him awake at night. They cannot sense the waves crashing inside him, the constant battle between holding on and letting go. To them, he is strong, resilient, unshaken, but within he is fragile, fighting silently against storms they will never know. And this is the cruelty of his pain, that it is invisible to everyone else. His friends see only the surface, the practiced expression, the rehearsed words. They see the man who appears to move forward, but not the heart that lingers in the past. They do not feel the loneliness that sharpens in silence, the questions that keep him captive, the longing that pulls at him every single day. They cannot feel the weight of the storm because it is not theirs to carry. It is his, and his alone. And so he keeps smiling, he keeps laughing, he keeps playing the part, all while the storm rages louder inside him. A storm with no end, no pause, no escape. A storm that grows stronger every time the world believes his smile, every time they mistake his mask for peace, every time they fail to see that behind his calmness lies a heart that is breaking, a heart that is. There is a unique kind of pain in reaching out and finding nothing on the other side. Each message he sends carries more than words. It carries hope, longing, a quiet plea for connection. But when that message is met with silence, it cuts deep. It feels like speaking into a void, like pouring pieces of his heart into an abyss that never responds. Every unanswered message is not just ignored. It is a reminder that he is forgotten, that his presence no longer matters, that his voice no longer reaches where it once did. At first, he tells himself you might be busy, that the silence is temporary, that the reply will come. He checks again and again, waiting for the sound of a notification, waiting for the smallest sign that he still exists in your world. But as the minutes stretch into hours and the hours into days, the truth sinks in. There is no reply, and the silence itself becomes the answer. And that answer hurts more than any harsh word could, because words, no matter how cruel, still acknowledge his existence. Silence, however, denies it. Silence erases him. And each unanswered message adds another scar, another mark that tells him he is speaking into nothingness, that his hope is being met not with care, but with indifference. Yet still, he cannot stop sending them. Because every message is a chance, no matter how small, that you might answer. Every word he types carries the weight of his heart, even though he knows it may never be returned. And so he keeps trying, he keeps hoping, he keeps bleeding through messages that are left unseen, unspoken, unanswered, piling one upon another like invisible wounds that no one else can see. Wounds that never close, wounds that grow deeper each time the silence returns, each time hope meets emptiness, each time he reaches out and finds only nothing, only silence, only the echo of his own longing, echoing back at him over and over, without end, without rest, without. The mind plays cruel games with a wounded heart. He sits alone and replays everything. Every word spoken, every silence left between, every detail that might explain why you didn't return. And the first place he looks is inward. He blames himself. Maybe he said the wrong thing, maybe he didn't love enough, maybe he loved too much. Maybe he wasn't enough, or maybe he was too much. The blame turns into a heavy shadow that follows him everywhere, whispering that the fault must be his. But then, in moments of tenderness, he forgives you. He tells himself you must have had your reasons, that maybe the world pulled you away, that maybe your silence was not cruelty, but pain of your own. He gives you the benefit of the doubt. He softens his heart. He lets forgiveness wash over him like a fragile peace. He convinces himself that you are not the villain, that life itself is what broke the bond, not you, not him. And yet the cycle never ends. Blame returns like a storm, forgiveness like a fleeting calm, and then blame again, crashing harder, heavier, deeper. It becomes a loop he cannot escape. Blame, forgive, blame, forgive, blame, forgive. Each time he thinks he has found the truth, his heart pulls him in another direction. Each time he forgives, pain reminds him of the emptiness. Each time he blames himself, hope whispers that maybe it wasn't his fault at all. And so he spins endlessly in this cycle, a prisoner of his own thoughts, never finding rest, never finding resolution. He is torn between anger and compassion, between self-doubt and understanding, between the ache of being left and the love that still remains. And the cycle repeats endlessly, painfully, quietly, as if it has no ending, no answer, no escape, only the constant turning of blame and forgiveness again and again, until even he no longer knows which one is true, until even he no longer knows whether to hold himself accountable or to let go, or to keep forgiving someone who is not there, someone who may never return, someone who lingers only in the silence that feeds the cycle, the silence that the world doesn't pause for anyone. Days turn into nights, seasons change, people move on, and life continues its endless rhythm. To everyone else, time flows naturally, carrying them further from yesterday, but for him, the clock doesn't move in the same way. His body goes through the motions, his face shows up where it needs to, but his heart is frozen, anchored in that exact moment you left. It's as if life split into two timelines, the one the world sees and the one he lives inside. Everywhere around him, things are changing. Friends chase new dreams, laughter fills rooms, conversations shift toward the future. But his future feels blocked by the weight of the past. No matter how far the days stretch, he keeps circling back to the same memory, the same absence, the same moment when everything he knew was taken away. The rest of the world is walking forward while he stands still, watching them drift farther and farther away. And the cruel part is, he knows time is moving. He feels it in his body, in the calendar, in the way the world keeps pulling him along. But his heart refuses to follow. His heart remains behind, clinging to something that no longer exists, holding onto the sound of footsteps that have long faded, holding onto the last glance, the last word, the last touch. To him, it is not the past. It is forever the present. This is the prison of loss, that the mind knows the days are passing, but the heart refuses to accept it. He is stuck in a moment that will not release him, reliving it endlessly, carrying it silently, unable to move forward because moving forward would mean leaving behind what he still longs for. And so time drags him on while his heart pulls him back, leaving him trapped between two worlds, one that moves without him and one that refuses to move at all. And in that in-between space, he lingers, unable to step out, unable to step through, unable to let go, caught forever in that moment, that silence, that absence, that loss that. Everywhere he looks, life is in motion. People laugh in cafes, cars rush down crowded streets, children run with careless joy, conversations bloom like flowers in the air. The world spins without hesitation, as if nothing has changed. But inside him, everything is still. His world feels frozen, paused on a frame he cannot move past, stuck on a silence that refuses to fade. While everyone else moves forward, he remains behind, caught in a moment that does not release him. It is a strange kind of loneliness, being surrounded by movement but unable to join it. The world invites him to keep going, to step into the flow, but his feet refuse to move. His heart is not ready, his soul not willing. The world may change seasons, bring new mornings, new beginnings, but his inner world is locked in winter, untouched, unmoving, waiting for something that does not arrive. And it is in that pause that he feels the sharpest ache. Because he knows time is passing, he knows he is falling behind. He knows that while the world writes new stories, he is rereading the same page over and over. People talk about growth, about healing, about moving on. But for him, there is no on to move to. There is only this pause, this silence, this stillness where every second feels like the same second, repeating endlessly. The cruelest part is that no one else notices. To them, he looks alive, breathing, moving through the days like everyone else. But inside, he feels trapped in a world that has stopped spinning, a world that has lost its rhythm, its color, its music. And though he longs to step forward, something pulls him back, keeps him tied, keeps him still. So while the world keeps going, he remains here, paused, waiting, hoping, searching for a reason to move again, searching for the one thing that could restart his world, the one presence that could unlock the stillness, the one return that could set him free. And until then he lingers, he waits, he stays in this pause that stretches endlessly, quietly, painfully, without end, without change, without. Losing someone is painful, but it carries a kind of finality. When you lose someone, there is at least the certainty that they are gone, that circumstances or fate have pulled them away, that life has written a chapter that cannot be rewritten. It hurts, yes, but it is a wound that the heart eventually learns to live with. But being forgotten, that is a different kind of pain, a wound that never closes, a silence that feels like erasure. Because to be forgotten is not simply to lose. It is to vanish in the eyes of someone who once saw you clearly. It is to become invisible to the very heart that once claimed to hold you close. He feels this difference like fire in his chest. When someone is lost, they may still carry you in their memory, but when someone forgets you, it is as if you never mattered, as if every moment, every word, every touch has been erased from their story while it still lingers endlessly in yours. And this is the torment he faces. He doesn't just feel that you are gone, he feels that you have chosen not to remember, that his name no longer holds weight, that his presence no longer stirs emotion, that what was once sacred to him has become nothing more than dust to you. To be forgotten is not a single moment of pain. It is a constant ache, a reminder with every silence, with every absence, with every day that passes without your return. He learns this difference slowly, painfully, each time he realizes that the world you built together still lives inside him, but perhaps has already died inside you. Losing hurts, but being forgotten destroys. It takes away not just the future, but also the past, rewriting love into nothingness, turning memories into one. Sighted ghosts that haunt him, while the other side of the story remains blank, untouched, uncaring. And so he carries both truths, that you are gone and that you may have already erased him, and that weight is heavier than loss itself, heavier than grief itself, heavier than the silence that continues to stretch without end, without answer, without. Goodbyes, as painful as they are, carry a kind of clarity. They are sharp, they are final, they draw a line between what was and what will never be again. A goodbye may break the heart, but at least it offers an ending, a truth to lean on, a wound that can, with time, begin to scar. But what he faces is not a goodbye. What he faces is silence, absence without explanation, disappearance without reason, and that is the deepest wound of all. Because when there is no closure, the mind never stops searching. It replays conversations endlessly, analyzing words, tone, gestures, searching for signs that were missed. It invents reasons in the emptiness, writing stories to explain what cannot be explained. Closure is the door that allows healing to begin, but without it, the door remains open, swinging endlessly in the wind of uncertainty. And every gust of silence pushes him back into the same questions, the same doubts, the same pain. This is why it hurts so much, not because love ended, but because it ended without acknowledgement, because he was not given the dignity of an answer, the respect of a final word, the mercy of a goodbye. Instead, he was left suspended in a space between holding on and letting go, carrying a weight that grows heavier because there is no end to it. And without closure, he cannot tell if he should grieve or wait, if he should let go or keep holding on. Every day becomes a tug-of war between hope and despair, between the desire to move forward and the fear of forgetting too soon, and this war never ends because closure never came. The wound remains open, the silence remains sharp, the absence remains unexplainable. And so he lives in that limbo, trapped between what was and what might have been, longing for words he will never hear, for an ending that will never arrive, for a truth that stays locked away, hidden in silence, stretching endlessly, painfully, without end, without answer, without. Silence is often mistaken for indifference, but his silence is not cold. It is heavy, it is filled with everything he cannot say, everything he has no strength left to repeat. His silence is not the absence of words, it is the presence of wounds. It speaks louder than any confession could, revealing the truth he hides behind his strength, behind his smile, behind the mask he wears for the world, and that truth is simple. He is hurt, deeply, endlessly, quietly. But within that hurt, there is still something tender that refuses to die. Even after the silence, the waiting, the unanswered questions, the weight of disappointment, he still carries a wish, fragile, almost broken, yet alive, that one day you will return. That maybe the door will open again, that maybe the silence will end, that maybe his heart will no longer have to wait in vain. His silence carries pain, but it also carries hope, stubborn hope, the kind that refuses to let go no matter how much it bleeds. It is a paradox. His silence says he has been wounded beyond words, yet it also says he still believes. His silence is both surrender and longing, both exhaustion and faith. It is the quiet prayer he never speaks aloud, the unspoken desire that lingers in every breath he takes, the invisible thread that keeps him tied to the possibility of your return. And so his silence becomes his language, the language of someone who no longer has the energy to ask, to plead, to explain, but still holds enough love to wait. It is a silence that carries the ache of nights without sleep, mornings without joy, days without answers. A silence that does not end, because his hope does not end. A silence that tells the story of a man hurt beyond measure, yet still wishing, still waiting, still longing for the moment you will return, the moment the emptiness will be filled, the moment the silence will finally break, though he does not know if that moment will ever come, though he does not know if the wait will ever end, though he does not know if the silence will ever give way to the sound of your footsteps, your voice, your presence, and until then, his silence remains. Endless, heavy, unfinished, unspoken, carrying both his pain and his hope, carrying both his wounds and his wishes, carrying everything he cannot say, everything he cannot stop feeling, everything that. And so he remains, silent, waiting, carrying the weight of absence like a shadow that never leaves. The world sees strength, but inside him lives a storm that no one else can hear, a storm that never rests. His heart beats with questions that have no answers, with memories that offer no peace, with wounds that find no closure. Yet even in that silence, even in that storm, even in that endless waiting, there is still a wish, fragile but unbroken, a wish that one day the silence will end, a wish that one day the door will open, a wish that one day the one he longs for will return, because the greatest truth hidden in his silence is this: no matter how much it hurts, no matter how heavy the loneliness, no matter how endless the waiting, his heart still believes. His heart still hopes, his heart still waits.